Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and good morning. It's Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio, and we are here today to talk about child abuse prevention, human rights abuses prevention, and survivor issues and things that might come up in our daily walk. Trying to walk out survivor issues if you've survived child abuse or human rights abuses. And I'm just so happy to be here today. It is November 29th, 10 o'clock Calgary time, and this is my second show, and I'm so happy to be able to share some thoughts with you and maybe some information. I'm hoping that you'll get something out of this. I certainly do, because as I prepare for the show, I get to learn just more and more about the issues surrounding child abuse and human rights abuses, and that's really my focus and my goal for international community development. Is more of a human rights stance that I'm taking. And so it is actually really just a really good study aid for me, and I hope that anyone listening will get something out of it as well. And also it's just a place for us to share. I know, like, I'm sharing my story with everyone, and I've just recently, come out publicly to talk about my life story, because I think it's worth telling. And the main reason is because I think my family is worth talking about. My family is suffered from so many years of just destruction and bad things that happened to my brothers and sisters, and and my parents. So the whole thing, I think they deserved better than that. And I think had we had the proper the proper people step in to help our family, it wouldn't have gone the way that it did. And so really my show is all about positive change, and not bashing people, and no hatred involved, and let's just keep this. How do we fix this situation for families right now who are going through these things, and how do we fix this for people in the future? So not just for child abuse, but human rights abuse is just the whole thing. This is technically just a place where anyone interested can call in and speak your thoughts, and maybe provide some input or tell your story. And it's a safe place to do that as well. And my guest call-in number that you can phone in is area code 917-889-3736, and that's if you're interested in phoning in with a question or comment regarding the show. I'm on just for a half an hour right now, just because half an hour seems like a long time to present material, and I'm just new at this, so it could eventually go to an hour. But I'm just so excited to be here, and I hope that you'll get something out of this. My last show, it was my first show, and I just spent some time introducing myself. And I'm a student at MRU studying international community development in continuing education program, so it's not even a credit course. This is just to get my foundation set for my future in human rights and child rights and child abuse prevention. So this is just a stepping stone, and but I'm enjoying the class very much, and I'm enjoying the teachers and all the students that are in that class. I'm learning a lot, and it's wonderful. About 2 years ago, what happened was I saw something on TV that just changed my mind. I was watching TV, saw a program of a woman who was abused by her husband in Afghanistan. There was just no hospital for her. She was on the ground. Her face was completely annihilated. And I thought, this woman has no pain medication. She's got no help from anyone. And, this was a hidden camera that had gotten this picture out to everybody. And I saw that, and I became so angry, because I thought, over here in this country, there's help. If you want help, you can reach out and get it. And that's what this show is all about. I'm going to promote websites that I've seen as a survivor myself of child abuse, and also drug abuse, my own drug abuse. I have lots of websites that I've been looking into for my own benefit, and I'd like to pass them on to you. There are some really good sources of information out there for people who are still, caught up in healing processes, and who are still trying to work through their issues. And because I'm certainly not a counselor, I recently just put, I have 2 blogs that I write, that I author, and I keep up. Lately I've been a little busy, but I do normally keep up writing on them. One is my story, and it's called Not So Fond Memories Growing Up in an Abusive Home, and that is on Blogger. And I also have another one called Promote Positive Change for Human Rights Abuses, and that is also on Blogger. And I have a YouTube channel and stuff, and I I just want to go ahead and say that right now, for legalities and stuff, I just recently put that on my blogs. I'm not a counselor. I believe in being honest with everyone, and because I'm honest and I appreciate honesty. I'm not a counselor. I don't have any degrees or counseling certificates. I strictly I'm just going on information that I find and my own opinions. So, just so that everyone out there knows, I'm not a qualified counselor of any type. I also am not qualified to offer any legal advice or any kind of legal aid, and for that matter. But what I am is really just a concerned citizen, a survivor myself of child abuse, and I'm also a person who cares very much about people. And I just want to share what I've learned over the years and how to take a heart that was full of hatred and anger and change it and move it towards a heart full of love and compassion and mercy. And this is my whole goal, is to just to show people that it can be done. And for anyone out there who's suffering right now, who thinks, I can't do it, you can do it. I'm living proof, and I know for a fact it can be done. It's a lot of work, and I'm not going to tell you it's not a lot of work, because it's a lot of work. It takes, it's taken me this long to get where I am today, and but it's worth it. It is so worth the fight. It's so worth the struggle, and I can tell you that right now. You just keep tuning into my show, and I'm going to just keep revealing stuff to you. My guest call-in number is area code 917-889-3736 if you're interested in joining me in with a question, or if you're a survivor and you want to tell your story, or let's just say you have some interesting things to bring up, current events regarding human rights or child rights issues and things like that. If you want to send me a chat, you're more than welcome to. I have a chat room. It's on Blog Talk Radio. And you can go in and just send me a little chat message, which I always have my chat window up. So for the last 2 shows that I've done. So you're welcome to send me a chat. And if you don't want it mentioned on the air, please put private between you and me. Because otherwise, I might think that it's something that I can bring out on the air. Because I'm not going to mention names, or I'll mention my own people's maybe names if I feel like I want to make a point, but otherwise I'm not going to be mentioning names or anything unless if you don't put private, then I might accidentally do that. So make sure if you do phone in or you do want your stuff private, please let me know ahead of time, because otherwise it'll be aired because I'm on the air. And so my guest call-in number 917, that's area code 917-889-3736. I hope you can hear me and I'm not talking too fast. I did have some interesting things to talk about today regarding an issue that just happened to me last week. I'm not mentioning names. It's a work-related incident, but I'm not giving away any information there. This is something that happened, and it's due to the fact that I'm still very much base my decision-making processes on my old way of my ways of thinking that were brought about just because of the abuse that I suffered as a young person. And I just wanted to kind of share this with you because I thought it was so interesting what happened, and it's worth bringing up. That's the whole issue. If it wasn't worth bringing up, I wouldn't bother. But this, what happened was I was having a little bit of trouble at work with one person who is my boss, and her stress. She wasn't stressed out at me. It's just her stress is so huge that I took it upon myself to, because that's what kind of a person I am. I care about people very much, and so because she was stressed out, I was stressed out. And I wonder if you can hear me. I'm just wondering if if everything's going good here. I hope so. Anyway, so what happened was, back to the story, her stress was just getting to me, and she was very short with me and stuff, and I think I took it very seriously, and towards the end of about 3 weeks of that, it started to wear on me, because I sort of associated her behavior with my mom's behavior towards me, which was very short, and if you read my blog, Not So Fond Memories Growing Up in an Abusive Home, I've actually gone into quite a lot of detail regarding how my mother treated me. And so, I associated my boss's behavior with my mother's behavior towards me, and it all came back. All of a sudden I felt the same feelings I was feeling as a young person, as a young girl growing up in that house. And, just feeling like I wasn't wanted, and that I wasn't, being not necessarily appreciated, but just that I wasn't wanted, and that I was in the way and causing trouble all the time for my mom. So this is how I felt at work, and so I took this I took this stress on, but I didn't say anything about it, and it kind of came to a head. And on Friday, I couldn't go in. I was so stressed out, and I didn't phone, and I thought, screw it, I'm just not going. I'm just going to quit and whatever. And I've done that before on a few jobs, and it generally has to do with women, and it generally has to do with issues like stress issues. So I just wanted to kind of, talk about that today and go in a little bit about the issues that surround that sort of thing. When this happened, a lady who is a life skill coach where I work actually phoned me to see what was happening, and she went through some things with me, and she said, she wanted to know my side of the story, and she said, what happened? And so I told her what happened. I was very honest about it. And she said, well, maybe you're just taking on her stress. And she said, because I had told her that I had grown up in an abusive environment. And she said, maybe you're just taking on her stress, and maybe, it's obvious that you would know if she, what's abusive and what's not. But the fact that if she's not directing it towards you, you might just be taking it on yourself because you care and you're a good worker. So I was, happy to hear that, because she was sounding, more and more like she was on my side. And so I was very happy about that, because I didn't want to lose my job, and I really like this lady. So the whole issue was I was so stressed I couldn't deal with going in, and I thought, forget it, I'm just not going back. So she said, maybe what you can do is just realize that you're a person, you do have rights. This woman, maybe she's so stressed out that she needs to be told that, she shouldn't be treating people like that. So she says, I'm going to just phone and find out her side of the story now and find out, what she has to say, and then I'll get back to you. And I said, sure, that'd be great. So she phoned and talked to this lady, and it all turned out this lady felt really bad. She didn't mean for that to happen. She didn't realize that she did know she was doing that, but didn't realize the effect it would have on me. And because, see, this is the thing, because, when you're a survivor and you grow up in an abusive environment, whether it's domestic violence, as a wife, being battered, or a male victim, which is very, sorry, but I'm very much a voice for male victims. And, a child suffering in an abusive environment, or an elderly person, doesn't matter who you are, if you grew up in that, or you actually are surrounded by that, you develop you can't help but develop an attitude. And, it's hard to, and a learned way of behaving. So my whole thing is just to shut down and say, forget it, it's not worth it, as an adult, because I'm like, well, no one's going to hurt me anymore, And so to be in a relationship, it's really hard when you say that, because we have really no control over what other people do. So my whole thing, I wrote this all out because I thought it was so interesting. This lady, she was very good. Within about 15 minutes, she had completely life skill coached me back into my job, back into realizing that I don't have to quit my job, that I can keep it, and I can still overcome this whole issue with child, because I did tell her that I grew up in an abusive home. And she said, there's no reason why you can't face your fear, and just, what's the worst thing that can happen? You go into the office, and what's she going to do? Fire you. Who cares? Then you can get another job. She can't fire you anyway, right? There's no course for that. So it was all, really basically, it was all my emotions taking over the situation. And that's what happens, and that's how survivors end up kind of sabotaging. It's not their fault, but if you don't recognize these things that trigger your abuse, like the post-traumatic stress disorder, if you don't recognize that, it can really have a direct effect on your relationships at work and at home and everywhere. I mean, I've had relationship issues with men due to this whole issue, and I had to work around it with my sweetheart who's in my life right now, and we have a great relationship now, but for a long time it wasn't that way. So, if you have any comments, or if you have any questions, or you want to call in and just tell your side of this, your story, please do. My number is guest call-in number, area code 917-889-3736, and we're discussing child rights, child abuse issues, domestic violence, human rights abuses, and just anything to do with that. And if you have any interesting topics that you might like to discuss, please let me know. So here's what I thought I'd just go into a little bit, was this incident. And what she said is that really if I were to leave, what I was going back to my story, if I had left there and just not gone back in and said, because they were okay with that, they said, look, if you want to quit, you go right ahead. It's your decision, but you'll be out of a job, and that's and be pushed out of a job for no reason, right? So, other than the fact that you're just not standing up for yourself. So she said, maybe, you don't get any closure that way if you just leave and just say whatever. She says, you're not going to get any closure or satisfaction out of that. But she says, if you go back in and, just make it known that, this lady that you're there to help her, you're there to do her job, but not there to take the brunt of her stress. And so by doing that, you get to learn how to deal with, how to take on your fears and how to handle the hurdles. And so that's what I thought I would title this program as Handling the Hurdles and the Hurt. That's the name of it, Handling the Hurdles and the Hurt. And, it's so true because life will throw you these issues, and they always come up. And when you are suffering from past abuse situations or low self-esteem or issues of lack of confidence or whatever, they can really, really tear you up. And that's why I'm saying there's ways to move forward in this, and this woman actually showed me within 15 minutes how to do that. And so it's wonderful what people can do. This lady, I'm not going to mention her name, but she is probably like a job life skill coach, counselor person, and she was brilliant, because she had me feeling that like my story was relevant, that my side was relevant, and that my opinions counted. And so that's what I would like to convey to you as a blog talk radio show host, that your opinions are valid, and that your abuse is valid, and that your survivor, you're surviving it is valid. The whole thing is valid. And so, I would like for people to feel comfortable about coming on and talking about their story. I'm going to read a little. I have some great information here. And but first I'm just going to read a little bit about my story. And I'm just going to read the very first chapter of my blog. It's called My Story, from my blog, Not So Fond Memories Growing Up in an Abusive Home. And my very first story is called My Story, and it says, I'm just going to read it out because this way you can hear it in my voice, and then I can explain a little bit about it, and then I'll go into some resource information. So it is my most sincere intention to not play the accuser. My aim in telling my story is not of revenge. It is not due to a compelling sense of duty. It is merely to present my story in order that a reader who may have experienced abuse of any kind in their lifetime might be comforted to know that there is hope, that life is worth living, and that through it all, we can all contribute and help to prevent child abuse and human rights abuses, working toward a peaceful end to a violent beginning. I feel it is important to let the reader know that I am placing a warning regarding my blog. This blog is graphic and details physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, marital rape, suicidal thoughts, suicide, murder, domestic violence, and may cause triggering and relapsing. If you are feeling unsafe, feeling suicidal, that you may harm yourself or someone else, get help. Call 911. I had seen so much destruction by the time I was a teenager that I just copied and mirrored what I knew. Violence, hatred, abuse, destruction. I thought that my life should continue on that way, and that ultimately it would end that way, as our family had been destroyed by poverty, hatred, marital abuse, child abuse, drug abuse, that went on without end. One family showed me that I was a good kid and told me I should not hate, but instead learn to love myself, and showed me how to believe in myself and prove to myself that I could make it. I could do it. All things were possible. And to that family I owe my love and gratitude. And to God I owe my very existence. And that's my very first entry. It's called My Story from my blog. And that's just it right there. I'm someone, which people now, I've people who actually find out now about my past actually say, I can't believe that. Like, because of my attitude and the way that I conduct myself, they can't recognize that in me, which is really awesome, because I've come like 100% turnaround. I was just a young person heading for destruction myself, and because I had seen so much destruction, I was actually mirroring what I had seen, and it was in my heart. I loved my parents, loved my family very much, but I hated what was happening at home. I hated what was happening with my family. I didn't like to see this complete, you know, destruction just taking place all the time. It was just tearing down the family, one piece by one piece by one piece. Just, you know, every time I turned around, there was just some crazy thing happening or some horrible issue going on, and so. And it just went on and on and on, and it just never stopped. And that's why I think pretty much I turned to drugs, because I was like, I just needed to be high, and I couldn't find anything else to take me out of that situation. And I didn't want to run away because I really love my family, and I used to kind of think about running away. I think I've even had mentioned it to my mom a couple of times, and she was like, I don't care, just go. She did not care if I ran away, and she was just like, you're just trouble for me anyway. So she wanted me out of the home anyway. So you know, it didn't do me any good to run away. So I just stuck around, made poems for my mom, and really just tried to get her to, really worked overtime to try to get her to show some love and care towards me, and she was not able to do it. So I, you know, took that very seriously, took it very hard, and as a young person of, you know, 12 years old, 13 years old, I was experimenting with drugs, not looking to have a future, never planned for the future, and never really thought about the future too much. People would mention and ask me if I had any plans for the future, and I would just be like, no. Really, I couldn't see myself living past, you know, 20. And I had friends in high school who told me that I wouldn't live to be 30 because of my behavior and the way that I was presenting myself. And, you know, they were, you know, I proved them wrong. So that's just the whole thing. It can be done, but it was a lot of work. And, you know, it took a lot of self-discipline and really just to say no to drugs, no to, I mean, I don't mind having a drink, you know, I was never really an alcoholic, but I was definitely a drug user. And I don't mind having a drink, but I certainly know when to cut myself off, because I realized why I was doing all that, right? I was doing that to try to stifle the pain. But I realized that pain was never going to go away. And that I saw my brother kill himself, you know. I actually didn't watch it, but I mean, I experienced the pain of having my brother commit suicide, and also another brother die from a drug overdose in a shelter up here in Calgary. So, you know, seeing that, and some of my friends, their lives were completely destroyed by drugs, I just thought, you know, I don't want to live like that. I really don't. Like, I think I deserve better than that. But it was really all because that one family had kind of got a hold of me when I was about 12, 13. And they started talking to me little by little. They started telling me things like, you're a good kid. You don't need to take this pain on, you know, from your mom and from your family. You need to walk in love. You don't want to carry hate in your heart. It'll destroy you. And they just sent me they just told me these little things that would just, you know, at the time I appreciated their help, but at the time they didn't mean very much. But after a while, they meant everything. And I mean, I haven't really kind of gotten too much into that in my blog yet, but I'm going to include that in there. So that's my story, and I hope you all will call in with your stories, and I hope you'll call in with questions and or just interesting information you want to add. And my guest call-in number is area code 917-889-3736. I also have a show on Monday night, 10 o'clock, and I'll be doing this every week for a couple of months, as long as I can afford to do it. So I've got some interesting information here that I pulled off the web. It's called Child Abuse Prevention Resources by the Public Health Agency of Canada at www.publichealth.gc.ca. And I'll just repeat that, www.publichealth.gc.ca. And it just goes in, this is Child Abuse Prevention Resources. I pulled this up because there is a whole detailed bunch of information on, you know, primary prevention, which we can maybe talk about tomorrow night. I've only got a few minutes left on the show, so I'll probably talk about this tomorrow night. Primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. Things that people can do to get involved, what child abuse is, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, and also I'll probably pull up some more resources for human rights abuses as well. But I'd like to right now just talk, because I know my show is ending really quickly. If you're feeling unsafe, there are numbers you can phone. And here in Canada, in Calgary, Alberta especially, or anywhere in Alberta, you can phone the Child Abuse Hotline 24 hours, 1-800-387-5437. You can phone the Crisis and Suicide Helpline, Distress Center, 24 hours, at area code 403-266-1605. And family violence information. This is numbers I pulled out of the telephone book. Family violence information, 24 hours. That's 310-1818. And kids help phone, 1-800-668-6868. And Calgary Women's Emergency Shelter, that is 403-234-7233. Thus, for people out there who might need help, make sure you get help. It's worth it. Your life does count. It does matter. I also have some information on some great websites. And Dream Catchers for Abused Children is one. And they do some great work, advocacy for child abuse, prevention, and child rights. And there are so many others on Facebook. There are Men Are Survivors too. Domestic violence resources for the male victim. That is on Facebook, and that's an excellent resource and just a place to tell your story and get some help. There's also advocacy for domestic violence and sexual assault on Facebook. I also belong to the Silver Braid Survivors Support Group for women of sexual or violent abuse. And I also really recommend hopeforhealing.org. They do great work. They also have a blog talk radio show, and they have blogs and great information. hopeforhealing.org. I want to thank you for joining me, and I'll be back on Monday night, 10 o'clock p.m. for a half hour, and we'll just kind of go through some more things. And I hope you have a wonderful day today, and I hope that if you are suffering and you are hurting, that you will reach out and really look into some of these websites that are out there with all kinds of great information. Dream Catchers for Abused Children is one that I suggest, and their websites, they're on Facebook, they are on all over the web. They have MySpace. There's just so much information out there, and I hope that you will access it. And I've got only a couple minutes left on my show here. Dream Catchers for Abused Children, that is http://dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com. They are also on myspace.com/abused_children. Twitter, they're on Twitter under Abused Children. They're on YouTube as Abused Children, and their information is just awesome. They are two moms on a mission, Sandra Potter and Donna Kashir, and they are child advocacy and domestic violence advocacy authors and workers, and they are doing a wonderful job. The USA, Preventing Child Abuse and Neglect. That's Child Welfare Information Gateway at www.childwelfare.gov. And Child Abuse Prevention Resources in Canada, that's found on Public Health Agency of Canada at www.publichealth.gc.ca. Get some information, get some help. Don't sit there and suffer in silence. My voice is raised. You got to raise your voice. Thank you so much for joining me. I just hope that you will come back and join me again every Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, and every Monday night, 10 o'clock for half an hour. And, like I'm saying, if you're a survivor, join me. I am on Silver Braid Survivors on Facebook, and I'm also on Hope for Healing. There's a blog there that's just full of great information. I'm also on Child Abuse Survivors, Safe Place for Survivors and Supporters. There are so many resources. Make sure you do get the help that you need, and that is that's my hope, that's what this show will do, is to promote positive change for people, so that you can move on with your life like I am. And I'm telling you, it's a process, and I'm still walking it out. But I hope you'll walk it out with me. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, well, I still have 20 seconds. Guest call-in number again, 917-889-3736 on blogtalkradio.com. You can also find me there, and you can find me on Blogger and YouTube as well. And maybe Monday night we'll go into some of those websites again. Have a great day. Take care.